Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. This is Firoz Manji from Daraja Press. Welcome to Organizing in the Time of COVID-19. Today, I have two amazing guests from the Social Justice Centers in Nairobi, Kenya. Faith Kasina is the co-convener of the social justice movement and co-founder and coordinator of the Kayole Community Justice Center. She was raised in Kayole, and the injustices she tells me, the injustices she witnessed growing up in her hood stirred a passion in her to be a voice that speaks against injustices and abuse. She refuses, she says, to conform to the normalization of class discrimination and has dedicated her life to living the change she desires. She's passionate about advocating for safe spaces for both boys and girls and the most marginalized in the community. And she tells me her heart beats for the youth as she tries to champion against the criminalization of youth and poverty. Her biggest desire is an equal, dignified, and just world. My second guest is Njoki Gachanja. She's a spirited social justice warrior and a humanist based in Githurai, Nairobi, where she served as the coordinator of the Githurai Social Justice Center. She fiercely advocates for dignity and equity for all, and is especially passionate about women in politics, leadership, governance, and the welfare of children. She also serves as administrative secretary at the Social Justice Working Group and Steering Committee. Njoki, a loving mother of two, and I don't think those are her two children screaming, is well known for her thought-provoking writing and her fluent and fiery articulation of societal issues. She has a wonderful mantra which she sent me, and I'll just quickly read it. Scratch not your head trying to figure out who I was. Burden not my grave with decorated words on an epitaph. When all is said and done and my time has come, let my footprints lead you to a life well lived. Wow, two extraordinary, amazing women. Welcome to the show, Faith. Welcome to the show, Njoki.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Karibuni. It's great to have both of you, each in different social justice centers in Nairobi. As I understand it from interviews we've done previously, we have a situation where the government has taken advantage of COVID to militarize the street, to use the police to repress people, to lock them up at night. One person described it as being like in a prison. In the daytime, you're let out into the sunshine. At night, you're locked up. Tell us more. Faith, why don't you start? What's the situation locally that you're facing?
I would actually say with the curfew that was imposed, the police understand the word curfew differently. To them, curfew means beating people. To them, curfew is about use force to the local people. Actually, is to instill fear.
Seem to have lost your sound. Faith, I can't hear you. Hello? Hello, Faith. I seem to have lost your voice. Because you've switched off you've muted yourself. Do you want to unmute? Okay, I think I can unmute you from here. Okay, Faith. Faith, I think we can,
Yes.
yes. Okay,
Can
so you were saying that the police interpret the curfew in a different way.
Yes, because to them, the curfew that has been imposed is actually about in, intimidating and instilling fear, and also using it to extort the young people in our communities. Because we find that the young people, especially the males, the boys, are the ones that suffer mostly when it comes to the police harassment. They are beaten. They are, if it's actually about if they're actually using this in the right way to actually combat COVID-19, they wouldn't be using it. They wouldn't be stalking people in the cells, because that's actually what they're using the curfew to do. They arrest people and stock them in cells where they stock them in cells, and they can only get out after giving a lump sum of money.
So what if they can't give you the money?
Hello.
So what happens if most people won't be able to provide the money?
If they don't have money, they'll stay.
So you have a growing prison population.
They stay. They stay until they are able to give out money.
And in
Yes.
terms of COVID, I mean, in your area, are there people who are affected by COVID? Are there people dying? Hello?
I've not heard of
Right. So
one that. Can you hear me?
I think we're having difficulty hearing you. Okay, let me. While we,
I'm saying.
Okay. Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
We've
Continue.
not heard of dying in our community because of COVID, but we've only heard of one case been positive.
Right. So what's the purpose of these curfews? Oh dear, the connection's not good. I'm sorry about that. Let me move over to Njoki. Njoki, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Yeah. Okay. Njoki, describe the situation where you are in Githurai.
Well, the situation is more or less what Faith said. I think we, as the citizens of Kenya, got a very different memo from what the police officers got, because our understanding seems to be very different. Things have cooled down a bit. The very first week was very intense. There was a lot of police brutality. There's a lot of police beatings, especially here in Githurai. On the third day, I think, after curfew, we actually woke up to three bodies on the road, and many people say it is because of police beatings. People who got caught up in the curfew hours. So after there was a lot of outcry, the police brutality has gone down, but now they've escalated on the extortion, especially on the face mask issue. I have personally been arrested for apparently not wearing the face mask as it should be worn. And so they take you to these police cells. They just make swoops and they take you to these police cells, and then they ask you for money. They tell you if you have 2,000 shillings, you can just make it a quick transaction, and if you don't, they actually threaten to send you to quarantine. So now quarantine has become more of a threat than this place where we're supposed to hold COVID-19 people. It's it's a mess. It's really a mess.
So when you say being sent to quarantine, what exactly does that mean?
It's you see, I think the police officers in Kenya have actually realized that Kenyans are a very scared lot. They sell a lot of fear to Kenyans. So one of these things they will tell you is that if you do not give us the 2,000 bob right now, you will go and you will spend a lot of money at quarantine. You think that for you to spend the 14 to 21 days. You're saying you can't afford 2,000 right now. You think you can afford 14 to 21 days on your own expense. So I mean, if you are this ordinary Kenya, you will make your quick calculations and you will start calling people to send you M-Pesa so that you can get yourself out of that situation.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Uh, are the middle classes, the elites, also treated in the same way?
It's actually interesting, and I keep saying that COVID-19 is actually that one situation that has come to like level the playground. So many of the things that we used to face here in the informal settlements or in the slums were just our own struggles, but right now we are having to face more of the same treatment. You will find someone who's driving their own car and they do not have a face mask, and they will be flagged down and they will be asked questions why they're not in a mask, and they're alone in the vehicle, and so they will not leave that place until they give the police a bribe. And again, the threat is quarantine. So at this particular place, I would say that the COVID-19 situation has actually come to level the playground. Really, right now we're just all bundled up in that same situation, kinda.
Right. Faith, is that similar to your experience? Hello, Faith.
Yes, I would actually say the situation is still the same because we've had. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you, Faith.
I would actually say the situation is just the same. Yes,
Okay.
I would actually say the situation is exactly the same as what, because we've had cases of musicians who have taken to quarantine because of paying 10,000 Kenyan shillings to the police.
Yeah. We have a comment here from Ayanda Kota, who is an activist in the landless people movement in South Africa. And he's saying post-COVID-19 will still be locked in austerity and militarization of police and authoritarian states. What's your view of that?
Well, you see, even before COVID-19, the social justice centers, our biggest message was against the criminalization of poverty that was what was in the country and what we were facing, especially as the youth from the informal settlements. Because in Kenya, it seems like when you're youth and when you're poor, it's actually a crime. And this was just a reality in in our little spaces where we're poor and we have no choice. And so there was this bid for the state to want to control the masses. So they instill fear through things like extrajudicial killings or just police brutality and extortion that goes on. So what COVID-19 actually did was to now expose the system for what it is, for this thing that we had been complaining about for a very long time, the so-called middle class, because I keep on saying there's no middle class, there's just the haves and the have-nots. Now the so-called middle class are actually now getting to experience what is our life, and we keep saying that, wow, right now you're going to get an artist, you're going to get maybe an MP talking about how they're being harassed by the police, and they really want to cause a fuss. And I'm like, well, guess what? That is our life. That has been our life for very many years. So yes, even after even post COVID-19, we're still going to be in that same mess. But now they know where the shoe hurts. They will now know what we meant when we say these people are not, are not treating us right. Now we are reading from the same script.
Right. So one of the most interesting things to have happened in Kenya has been the formation of social justice centers. I think since 2018. Faith, you were one of the founders of the social justice movement. Can you tell us a little bit more about why it was formed and what does it do? Are you receiving anything, Faith?
I would actually say the social justice centers. The first one to be formed was Mathare Social Justice Center. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, continue. You said the first was to be formed was in Mathare.
Yeah, I was saying that. Yes, it was Mathare Social Justice Center that was formed back in 2015, and later on, the other communities started organizing their own committees from just seeing what Mathare were doing. And so the second one was Dandora Community Justice Center that was formed back in 2017. Team saw the formation of Kayole Community Justice Center and many other social justice centers. And so we saw it wise for us to come together and synergize our energies so that we can work together. We formed the Social Justice Centers Working Group.
So what does it do? What is a social justice center?
A social justice center is just a community-based organization that is spearheaded by the community, by the members of the community and no one else. That actually has campaigns that are run by the members of the community. It's actually about the community finding its own, finding solution to its own problems, not anyone from outside coming to find solutions for them. So it's community organizing to find solutions to its own problems.
And so, Njoki, you were part of a founder of the local one where you live. Tell us a little bit more about how that was formed. What prompted it?
Okay. Like Faith has rightly put it, in Kenya, we have one problem, and I don't think it's in Kenya alone. I think it's just human nature, where we're really we lean a lot on the messianic kind of approach, where you think there's this one person who will come and save you from all these problems that you're facing, and that it's always someone else who has the answer and not you. So, really, the Social Justice Center. The approach is organizing the communities themselves. If in Githurai the problem is say water, if the problem is extrajudicial killings. It is not someone from Madare who will come and organize for us or say, but this is the problem that we are facing. It is people from Githurai who will say, in Githurai, we don't even have water for 6 days. So what are we going to do about it? Who are we going to hold responsible? Because we say it's not about, we are not here to liberate anyone. We are not here to be the voice of anyone. We are here to actually pass the mic, to empower the communities to actually speak for themselves, to make them the agencies, So, like here in Githurai, there's a lot of youth employment. You will walk around and you will find a lot of bases where the youth just spend their whole day chewing cud or smoking bang, and you will ask them and they'll tell them, they will tell you, what do you want us to do? We don't have work, we don't. And they have normalized this. They actually don't see it as a systemic rot. They actually think, I do not have a job because I was born in the wrong family. I do not have a job because maybe I failed in my exams. They've really normalized it. So we want to make these problems abnormal. We want to make it, we want them to know that when your son is actually killed and because maybe he was a thief, that is actually wrong. You know, do not normalize extrajudicial killings because, and we keep saying in the social justice centers, if we're going to kill all the thieves, let's start from the top. I mean, all these government officials who are corrupt and are stealing from us. If that is the way we're choosing that we're gonna go, please let's start from the top. But if we're not going to use that uh, that approach for everyone, then take these people through due process. That's why we have courts. That is why we have jails. So those are the conversations that we have, and in my community particularly, those are the kind of conversations we are having with the youth, so that they stop normalizing this abuse that they have been put through for a very long time.
So does the formation, there must be 30 or so social justice centers across Kenya? Is this a reflection of a growing movement, a politicization of people in the informal settlements?
Well, I think we got to a place and realized that our problems are political, and the only way we will solve our problems is through is getting into the politics. Because for a very long time we will hear people say, politics is not my thing. But this politics is the one that is actually ruining your life, so it has to be your thing. You are by default just pushed into this politics. So if you do not make it right, then you will forever be a slave to the system. So one of the things that we do at the social justice movement is actually political education, because we realize that, I mean, a soldier without an ideology is a potential criminal. So how then do you make sure that, yes, they are frustrated, but then this frustration has to be structured in such a way then you do not self-destruct. So political education is one of the things that we do as a social justice center. Why? Because we want to tackle our problems politically. Right now it's a movement and it is really growing, but at some particular point we will actually go full swing to political, to the political wing.
So explain to me how a social justice center gets formed, Faith. Is it just people in the community saying, we want to form this, or what is it? Because there are lots of people organize anyway, and in all the settlements, you'll always find different groups of people and so on. So why would they form a social justice center? What is it? Why does that appeal to them? Why is it that there are suddenly 30 social justice centers when there weren't any before?
I would
Right?
actually say it's because the social justice centers are very organic. It's the community. Can you hear me? It's I would
Yeah.
actually say because the social justice centers are organic. It's the community coming together to find solutions. Before we would sit down and wait for the NGOs to come and tell us, I think you have this problem. I think your problem is education. I think this is your problem. And then they would find their own way. And,
Right.
but right now it's actually the community coming out and saying, no, I think our problem is not education. Our problem is right to water. Our problem is right to housing. And they organize around right to housing and right to water. So I would actually say just the drive to actually see change in your community and to actually be the part of the change that you want is
So,
itself. The first of all, the community has to realize that there is a problem and then now come together to find the solution.
so explain to me the sort of the structure. How's it formed? I mean, who can join? How is it organized? Are there officials? Are they elected? What's the process? What goes on? I'm trying to get an understanding of what happens in the community when people feel, oh no, we need to get organized. How does that work? Njoki, do you want to go?
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I would
really,
say,
like,
of course, when people come together, they are.
Sorry.
okay. So really, what happens is when the community organizes itself, it has to register as a community-based organization. Every social justice center is actually autonomous. So after you have joined as a social justice center, we go to what we call the social justice center working group. The social justice center working group is where we have two representatives from every social justice center, because we realize that if I in Githurai am doing something, and Faith in Kayole is doing something else, our efforts would be more impactful if we worked together. That is why the social justice working group was actually formed. So at the social justice center's working group is where every center will send two elected representatives, where all the decisions will be made. Now we will meet as leaders and we will discuss. And in the same social justice working group, now we
Hmm.
are divided into committees or pillars, what we call pillars. We have the gender-based violence pillar. We have the Article 43 pillar, that is from our constitution. We have the Arts for Social Justice pillar. We have the research pillar, because all our campaigns are um, actually influenced from like a participatory action research kind of approach. We also have the wellness and rapid response, because as human right defenders we face a lot of problems. We get arrested. We it's not even a job, so sometimes we don't even have money to eat. So we also have that committee where our wellness is actually taken care of, or someone, or when you're arrested, there's that rapid response comrades are sent to actually take care of that. And oh, there's the women in justice centers. So there's also this pillar where it's just
Rights to
the
life
women.
and dignity.
Yeah, where it's just the women, uh, where they have their own safe space to discuss their issues. And then we also have the right to life committee, and that is where most of our cases also fall: the extrajudicial killings, the
Hmm.
police brutality. So from the working group and from those pillars, we now have the steering committee.
Right.
Hello.
And you're saying, yeah, the steering committee. you were saying, Njoki, that you have
Oh, yes.
steering committees. Sorry.
Yes, now the topmost is a steering committee. So what the steering committee actually does is now implement what was passed at the Social Justice Center working group with all the leaders. So the steering committee has um, five of us, which is the convener, the co-convener. There is me, who's the administrative secretary. Then there's one who looks for resources, the resource person, and there's the communication person. So there's five of us just to implement what the whole working group and the movement at large um, deliberate on. So that really is the structure of the Social Justice Center, from the centers which are autonomous to the working group, and the working group are the committees, and then the steering committee.
Right. So, and these are all volunteers.
Yes, we are all volunteers.
So you have other jobs to survive.
What I and you see this is the thing. Why most of us found ourselves in these spaces is because we didn't even have a job in the first place. So it's really finding a good time with our idle time. I know. Yeah, yeah.
So how do you survive?
Through programs, of course. I mean, we have a lot of partnerships. Um, so through those, maybe we would get a partnership with an NGO, and maybe through the program, some of us get taken care of, you know. And then once that program is gone, then you're back to you and your God.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the features of our history in Kenya has been that these organizations are so often led by men. Uh, there seems to be a shift occurring, that women are playing a much more foundational leadership role, an organizing role. Is that a true characterization of what is happening? Faith?
Uh, yes, I would actually say that women have taken the mantle. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you.
Okay, I would actually say that the women have actually taken the mantle. Uh, I would actually say that the women have taken up the mantle and they're in the forefront in the fight in the communities. We have social justice centers that are led by women, starting with the Kayole one, where I come from, Githurai, and so many others that are led by women. So the women are really a part of this movement, and they're part of the leadership. So everything is turning around that the women are taking up the will.
So how are the men taking this?
Not lying down, of course.
Uh, it's not easy because men are used to leading, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Are there very specific things that that women are facing in these situations, especially under the conditions of repression and lockdown and curfew?
Oh, well, of course, in any crisis, women and children are always the biggest victim. And the Social Justice Center, in the last 2 months or so, 2 months, have actually been monitoring the situation on ground. And you will find that the most affected are actually women. Right now, there's a very big rise in the SGBV cases, sexual and gender based violence cases. There's a lot of domestic violence cases that we're actually recording, and most of these victims are actually women. And you will find
Oh,
that even during the curfew, there are reports where women are actually being raped by the policemen. We've had a few cases of that. Um, and generally, it's of course it's the women and children who have suffered the most during these times, because I remember there's a case we were handling, I think 3 or 4 days ago, where there's a woman who was in labor, and they could not access you know uh, the it was curfew time, and so they could not access uh, l- uh, uh, the health services in time, and so they ended up losing the baby. And these are scars that you never really get over. You get a lot of bitterness from this, even when they're trying to explain, and when they're telling you that the government has become a monster to the people. So yes, in the monitoring that we're doing, the people who are crying the most on the ground are actually women.
right. So you have these social justice centers. You have women in the leadership organizing. It's quite. I mean, it's remarkable to have so many social justice centers spring up like this. What's the effect, do you feel? One, in terms of how people feel about themselves as being determinants of their own history, and the other is how does the state respond? How does it affect politics? Faith, do you want to give that a try?
Uh, I did not hear you well.
What I'm saying is, with all these social
Repeat the
justice,
question.
yeah, with all these social justice centers formed, what impact does it have on the communities in terms of
Mhm.
their self-confidence and their ability to determine their own lives? And what impact does it have on the body politic, on government, on state, on politics?
I would actually say, first of all, the community feels that it has the voice right now, because they don't have to wait for anyone to find to give them what they want. If it's water they want, they'll go to the water offices and demand for water. That's actually awakening the masses. The masses have realized their power, and it's actually a very good thing that they've come to realize that they actually have power. To the state, I would actually say we've become the social justice movement has become the alternative voice, and whatever it is that we demand, especially when people are arrested, we reach out to the DCI, the ODPP, and they act on this on thing. So I would also say that the social justice movement has become the alternative voice, and the communities feel that they actually have their power.
Right. Oh, and is that your view as well, Njoki?
Yes and no. I actually feel that yes, the masses have started awakening, because there's a building frustration where people are realizing that I think we deserve better, but we really have a very long way to go as a country, because you see, this abuse has been inculcated in us since independence before and after, because as we keep on saying, we're not yet huru. It was really basically like a change of shift from the white man to our the one that looks like us, but really the colonial times are still here with us, where we live as slaves. So it's really, we really have a lot of work to do, a lot of work just to awaken the masses. But I am glad that people are actually having this conversation. Take, for example, the conversation about extrajudicial killings. Before the social justice centers brought it to the light, it was a taboo having a conversation about EJEs. But a few years ago, after our Sabasaba marches, after pushing and pulling and giving and giving faces to those statistics and giving stories and saying, no, by the way, this was not a thief. This was just a cobbler that was shot, and and these things were planted on him. When we started telling those stories, EJE became, first of all, the government accepted that, yeah, there are cases of EJEs, and we started having that conversation. So
Extrajudicial executions. Yeah.
yes, extrajudicial executions. So we got to a place where we started this conversation, and it has become a national conversation. So we have upset when we started like a joke. I think they thought, I mean, these are just young kids who are, what harm could they do? But we kept at it, and we kept insisting, to a point where they're now calling us to those tables. Once they once they do something, and we maybe send a press statement out, of course they will not come out and say, we've had you, but you will see a follow-up, and you will realize that, oh, this is, by the way, because we say this and this is because we actually raised it. And they've also started infiltrating our spaces, of course. And once someone is infiltrating your space, then you kind of realize that you're hitting the right buttons. So it's a process. We are in a process, and we realize what it takes. And the beauty about it is that the youth, because 95% of the people who form the social justice centers are actually the youth. The
When
beauty
you say
about
youth, what do you mean?
below 35.
Okay.
Yes, below
You call
35.
those youth, huh?
Yes. But we're allowed to say we are youth at heart. Those of us who are we're about to get to above 35. But what we're saying is actually, the beauty about it is they're ready to go the whole way. They're ready to take up these spaces. They're talking about vying for political seats. It's not about me being in my base and just having this conversation and going home and saying, okay, the Lord will see us. No, it's the youth going the whole way, and it's a beautiful conversation.
One of the things that preceded the development of the social justice centers was Bunge la Mwananchi. What has happened to Bunge, and what's the what's a connection? What's the flow? How did one develop into another? Faith.
I don't know much about what has happened to Bunge. I would be lying if I say I know. But what I know is that most of the people who are organizing the social justice centers were part of Bunge Mwananchi, like Gasheke or Lalu is the convener of the social justice movement. They were part of Bunge la Mwananchi, but I don't know what has happened to Bunge right now.
Do you think that the way in which the social justice movement makes decisions and deliberates about what it should be doing, is that something you see emerging as an alternative Bunge la Mwananchi, to use it in inverted commas, not necessarily that particular organization, but as an alternative forum and an alternative place where citizens will become able to take control of their lives? Open question to either
Yes,
of you.
I would actually say it's another kind. I would actually say it's just another Bunge la Mwananchi, but now this one is to the communities, because the Bunge la Mwananchi that I know, they were up there in town, but now this other Bunge la Mwananchi is back to the grassroots, to the communities. That's the social justice centers.
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe just to add, the Social Justice Center is actually a baby of Bunge la Mwananchi, because that is where the convener and Gasheke, who are actually the founders of the social justice movement, started from. And Bunge la Mwananchi was just this gathering of frustrated, unemployed Kenyans who would go and meet in town and just deliberate on so many issues, like have their own parliament, and talk about these issues, and at the end of the day go back to where they came from the slums, from the informal settlements that they came from. So it is from this inspiration that the convener in Gasheke thought, why is it that we actually have to come all the way to town, to CBD, to have these discussions? Why can't we have these discussions back at home? Like, I just need to get out of my house and gather with my neighbors and have this same discussion where I come from, because when you go to CBD and you have a discussion about water, and where you're facing the water problem is actually back in Madare, then it makes more sense for you to have that conversation back in Madare, where you have more people who are facing that same problem. So that was the inspiration behind the social justice movement, which was actually that is why I comfortably say that the social justice movement is actually a baby of the Bunge la Mwananchi, because that is where the inspiration comes from. And just to say that, you see, when you have such powerful movements, uh, of course, there are so many people who would want the status quo to remain. And one of the biggest questions has been, when funding comes, do these movements stand? Because you will find powerful movements like Bunge la Mwananchi, you'll find powerful movements like social justice movement that really start off with high morale, with a very clear vision. Their clarity, their ideology is on point, but then NGO politics sets in, funding politics sets in, and it becomes about the money, and it no longer is about the water. It is no longer about extrajudicial killings. It becomes about who's getting what and who is holding what title. So yes, when we talk about why this movement is not what it was, or what the morphing of movements, funding plays a very big role. Yeah.
Pesa says
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And we've seen this in many places. For example, the U.S. State Department has thrown huge amounts of money to social movements in, for example, in Kivu, in eastern Congo, and it's just fragmented so many movements. Are you faced with a situation where the Oxfam, Boxfam, Soxfams of the world are looking to put money in your way?
Yes.
Are you faced with that same problem?
I would actually say, with actually yes, I would actually say the growth of the social justice movement, that's what you're facing right now. Everyone wants you by their side. Everyone wants to give you money, to support you.
Ilani, Yeah. This has been an absolutely fascinating discussion with the two of you. Fascinating, but also inspiring. And what a privilege for me to meet the two of you. And I'm sure there are many more like you who I would love to meet. I would very much like to be kept in touch with what's going on. I know you're both based in Nairobi, but it would be useful to understand how the situation in Kisumu or Mombasa, Kajiado, or wherever, how thinking is going on there. So I would welcome your helping us to connect. I'm sure there's going to be lots of interest in the discussions that you've provided for us today, and I want to really thank you for your courage, your integrity and leadership. That's just great. Asante.
Asante, thank you.
Thank you, Asante.
Hi. We will be back, I'm sure. And in the meantime, I say thank you very much. And I will close up the show, and then we will talk again in a moment. That was an extraordinary conversation, I thought, and gives me immense hope for my own home country that there is such organizing going on and such courageous people involved. Thank you for joining us on this show. This is Feroz Manji from Taraja Press signing off for this morning.